To the flipping and wholesaling houses in New York show. I'm Michael Pinter. I teach you how to start flipping and wholesaling houses in New York, or if you're already doing how to grow your business. Today we're talking about what to look for when you're buying a house as is. So there's a few concepts of as is, and if you stay to the end, I'm going to tell you how to sort of get a seller to agree to sell you something as is, but you'll have it out before you get into contract. So um, as is can mean a lot of things. As is can mean as is for the condition of the property. So sometimes people will sell property as is because they don't want to make repairs to it and they know that repairs are needed. As is can also mean as is in regard to permitting issues with the municipalities. So maybe there are violations or open permits. As is can mean a lot of things. Let's start with condition first. So what to look for when you buy a property as is the major system. So I look for at the roof. I mean, the first question you want to ask is why are they selling it as is, right? So I buy all my houses as is, and you always have a reason why. But if you don't know the reason, you might want to ask. Sometimes they'll just tell you. They'll tell you, well, because it's foundational problems. So you want to look at the major parts of a property condition wise. So you want to look at the roof, right? And you got to figure if it needs a new roof, and some houses do need a new roof. It could be between 8 and 15,000, between 20,000, maybe $20,000 if it's a huge roof, big house. You want to look at the heating systems and the plumbing. You want to get an idea if it works. The electrical systems. That's pretty much it. Everything else is sort of cosmetic. Now there may be termite issues behind the walls, but that's not something you're going to find anyway. So you want to look at those things, and you can sort of figure out how much those things will cost if you want to speak to a contractor. So when I go through a house, very often the houses are in bad condition, and I'm just thinking, oh, kitchen that's 15,000, bathroom that's $8,000. I mean, those numbers are just going through my head. But I do things less expensive, right, than most people. Sorry. So you want to look at the major things. You don't want to look at cosmetics. Believe it or not, even something like mold is not a big problem. It's easily remediated. Okay, bleach kills mold, and if you want to call a mold remediator, it's not going to be $1 million. So mold is not the biggest issue. People look at it like it's the end of the world. It's absurd. I love mold when I see mold because I remove it and I'm fine. So you want to look at the major systems. You don't want to look at cosmetics. You want to be able to look past cosmetics, right? It needs a new kitchen. Okay, and you could spend $200,000 on a kitchen. I would highly recommend against it. A bathroom, even these things can be done for relatively small amounts of money. But if there's a real problem with the electrical system, like I've gone to houses where there's a fuse box there, didn't even have circuit breakers, that may mean you're going to need to redo the entire electrical system. That can get expensive, especially if you aren't planning to knock down the walls. Because guess what? When you redo electrical or plumbing systems, you have to break through walls. So it gets to a point where you may say it may be more cost efficient to literally gut the house. So that can get really expensive. And the reason why gutting a house is expensive is because you find all these things when you break down the walls, which may or may not bother you for 50 years if you hadn't seen them. So those are the condition things you want to see, right? But again, the more important thing is you want to ask why are you selling it as is. If nothing's coming at you, now foundation is also an issue. Now people are under the mistaken thought that if there's any crack in a foundation, outside or inside, that somehow this house is going to fall down. It's usually not the case. Usually not. But you can bring a foundation guy there to take a look. Now, just understand most foundation guys are going to tell you that it's going to be expensive. But just seeing a crack in a foundation, either outside or inside, does not always mean that there's a severe foundational problem. Guess what? Even water in the basement, right, groundwater coming up, can usually be fixed for between $5,000 and $10,000 from someone who's going to put like a French drain around it and pump it out. It's not the biggest deal. Most things can be fixed, right? Now, if a house has got severe structural problems, you may have to knock the house down and then look at it as just a land deal. Now, the other way that things can be sold as is because they have an open permit or an open violation or unpermitted addition. Now, let's deal with all these. Now, first, unpermitted addition. So that means, and it's incredibly common that there was an addition done to the house or a bathroom, let's say, added in a basement, and no one ever filed a permit for it. Some people look at that as it's the end of the world. The truth is, most of the time, you can be okay with it, and you may be able to get it permitted later with a maintained permit. There might be requirements. So, for example, in most parts of Long Island, if you put a bathroom in a basement, you're going to need a check valve, which means that it's a one-way valve. It doesn't allow the sewage to go back. Doesn't allow sewage to come in. Only allows sewage to go out to the sewer or septic. Or you may need an ejector pump, which just pumps everything out. depending on the height, where the water, where the main sewer line is relative to the toilet. But these are kinds of things you may be able to take care of later. But now, if there's an open permit for work that was done and never closed, or there's an open violation, you have to understand you can probably still buy the house. You may have an issue from your lender. Your lender may say, hey, the title's got a problem. Some lenders won't even look at municipal searches at all, never know. Most won't. And some will look at it and say, well, hold somebody in escrow and take care of it eventually. You need to just be aware of that. And you need to make that clear to whatever lender you're dealing with that this could be an issue. One of the better reasons to use a mortgage banker over a bank, because if you go to, let's say, Sterling Bank and they say, and you get all your things approved and you're ready, and then they go, oh, sorry, we can't close because there's an open violation, that's a pain in the ass. But if you go to a mortgage banker, they'll find the lender who can work with it. So you need to ask. Believe it or not, people will tell you, right? If you go into a house and it's in good shape, everything seems fine, and they're selling it as is, and they're asking to buy it as is, you might say, why? Is there a problem here that I'm not seeing? So be aware that as is can mean a few different things. As is can mean as is for condition, as is can mean as is for the permitting and municipal search issues, and as is can mean for both, right? Very often I'm buying properties that have problems with both. They're in terrible condition and they have a problem in the municipalities. So I have to figure in what this is going to mean to me when I close on it, or if I'm going to assign the contract to somebody else, what it's going to mean to them. It's very common. It's not a big deal. You just need to understand it. Everything's a function of price. Everything. So here's the real trick about how to do this. So if you see a house and it's great, and you have a little doubt in your mind that something's a bigger problem than you want to handle, what I would say is negotiate a price you feel comfortable with. They will agree. Then say, I want to do an inspection. Now they're going to say, whoa, why do you want to do an inspection? We said this is as is. And you say, listen, I just want to see what's going on here, right? I'm not going to ask you to make any repairs. It just gives me an idea of how much things will cost. Most of the time, they're going to agree to that. Now, here's the trick, and this is a little bit of being a jerk. Until the contracts are signed, you are under no obligation to buy the property. You can literally tell the guy, sorry, I changed my mind. If you do the inspection, and just be aware that most inspectors, if the property is not in good shape, are going to give you a laundry list of problems. And something shows up there that you don't even count on, right? The guy goes, the house is tilting and it's going to fall apart. You can just say sorry. And that's as your attorney is negotiating with the seller's attorney to get the contract done. You see, New York is different than the other 49 states. In the other 49 states, you just go to contract between a buyer and a seller right away. And then you usually get an inspection contingency period, maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, to go do an inspection. But that's in every other state, in the other 49 states. In New York, you do this inspection before, after a price is agreed upon. And there are a lot of people who feel like once a price is agreed upon, then that's your word. Your word is like oak. That's bullshit. Okay, I can tell you straight up. I've had plenty of buyers promise me that they're buying the house and then just flake out on me, ghost me, or just send me a text saying, sorry, I changed my mind. Until contracts are signed, no one's under any obligation. So if you want to buy this house and let's say it's a disaster, and you get it under a price that you want, I would say, hey, I'm just going to do a quick inspection. I just want to get a feeling for how much money this is going to cost me, but I'm not going to ask you to do any of the repairs. Most sellers in that case will say, okay. Some will say no, and then you have a problem. But most will say, okay, do the inspection, get a better handle on it, and then while the attorneys are talking, you could say, I'm out. Oh, again, it's a bit of a dick move, but it'll work, I would say, 9 out of 10 times. But you've got to understand, if someone says they're selling a house as is, you want to understand why, right? If you don't get in there and see why, you may want to ask why. Sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't. But I would ask. So for me, that's a really important thing, right? Every time I'm going on a seller appointment, I want to know why they're selling, right? And if they just say, I'm in the mood, or because you sent me a postcard, or because I heard your radio ad, that's just not good. I may not even go on that appointment. I need to know a reason. And if somebody's listing a property for sale as is, and you go there and it's in decent condition, obviously you haven't had time to run the title report and see what's open, I would say, what's going on? They'll usually tell you, oh, there's an open permit from 1952 for the finish in the basement, something like that. And then you have to just talk to your attorney and talk to your mortgage provider and say, hey, I got a property, can I buy it with an open permit? And some will go, no problem, and some will go, no way. So just be in contact with them, but ask, find out why something is being sold, as is, if you don't understand why right away. So I hope this was helpful. If you're interested in finding out other ways I can help you, go to howtoflipnewyork.com. If you are interested in my course that teaches how to do this, go to howtoflipnewyorkcourse.com. John, got to check those Sandy restoration. Yes. Yes, that's another yeah, Sandy restoration is an issue, right? There are plenty of houses that have not been restored since Sandy or were restored after Sandy, but now are required, well, can't get a certificate of occupancy. So maybe we'll do another video on Sandy properties. It's 2012. We're almost 10 years since Sandy, and there's still issues that most municipalities really handle it poorly. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, go to coaching.howtoflipnewyork.com. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you are watching on Andy's channel, please click like. The thumbs up really help me. And keep the comments coming. I go live 5 times a week. That gives me material to talk about. There are no bad comments. If it's something simple, I'll just reply with an answer. If it is something I've covered recently or in depth, I'll send you links to the videos. And if something new, I'll do a video on it. So thank you very, very much for watching. Sorry.